Dear viewers, due to continuous rise in the number of COVID cases and the fears of a new wave, we are forced to switch the program to voice-over mode for a few days. As soon as the situation gets back to normal, we'll be back with the original format of the program. Thank you for your cooperation.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the news series. I am Pooja Dwivedi, and in this segment today we are going to discuss about the Economic Survey 2022. So, Economic Survey has been tabled in the Parliament. There are many important highlights, but before we begin with the highlights, let's know about it. The Economic Survey is basically an annual report card of the economy, and it is presented a day before the budget and examines the performance of each and every sector and then suggests future moves. The Economic Survey was delinked from the budget in 1964 and unveiled in advance in order to provide the context of the latter. All the surveys have a theme. Can you tell me the theme of this year in the comment segment? Last year, the theme was Saving Lives and Livelihoods. In 2017 and 18, the Economic Survey was pink, as the theme was Women Empowerment. It consists of two parts. One includes the economic challenges and the countries facing, and the second is the analysis of the year gone by. It is prepared by the Economic Division of the Department of Economic Affairs of the Finance Ministry under the overall guidance of the Chief Economic Advisor. It reviews the economic developments in India over the past financial year by analyzing and providing detailed statistical data of the sectors: industrial, agricultural, industrial production, employment, prices, exports, among others. The survey also helps in giving a better understanding of the union budget by comprehending the country's priority for the next financial year and what sectors would need more emphasis. The Indian economy is in a good position to witness GDP growth of 8.0 to 8.5% in 2022-23. Supply side reforms, capex, and exports to be growth drivers for the next financial year. Agricultural growth for fiscal year 2022 was seen at 3.9%, industrial at 11.8%. Overall economic activity has recovered past the pre-pandemic level. Agriculture and allied sectors have been the least impacted by the pandemic, and the sector is expected to grow by 3.9% in 2021-22. Moving on, the services sector have been the hardest to be hit by the pandemic, and those who were specifically human contact intensive were hardest hit. The sector is estimated to grow by 8.2% this fiscal year, that is following last year's 8.4% contraction. Total consumption is estimated to have grown by 7.0% in 2021-22. There have been significant contributions from government spending. Startups in India have grown remarkably over the last 6 years. The number of new recognized startups have increased to over 14,000 in 21-22. As a result, India has become the third largest startup ecosystem in the world after the US and China. Further, a record 44 Indian startups have achieved unicorn status in 2021. In Delhi, over 5,000 recognized startups were added between April 2019 and December 2021. And Maharashtra has the highest number of recognized startups at 11,308. The money raised by initial public offerings has been greater than what has been raised in any year in the last decade by a large margin. The government of India opted to use safety nets for vulnerable sections on one hand, while responding iteratively based on Bayesian updating of information. The barbell strategy was discussed in the last year's economic survey. Key enabler of this flexible, iterative, agile approach is the use of 80 high-frequency indicators in an environment of extreme uncertainty. Price competitiveness and good quality have enabled homegrown medicine producers to be dominant players in the world market, thereby making the country the pharmacy of the world. India transformed from being among the fragile 5 nations to 4th largest forex reserve, giving policy room for maneuvering. The privatization of Air India has been particularly important, not only in terms of garnering disinvestment proceeds, but also for boosting the privatization drive. The expenditure policy of the central government during 21-22 has a strong emphasis on capital expenditure. In order to achieve the GDP of $5 trillion by 2024-25, India needs to spend about $1.4 trillion over these years on infrastructure. During fiscal year 2008-17, India invested about $1.1 trillion on infrastructure. National Infrastructure Pipeline was launched with 6,835 projects, which has expanded to over 9,000 projects covering 34 infrastructure subsectors. During the fiscals 2020-2025, sectors such as energy, roads, urban, railways amount to around 70% of the projected capital expenditure in infrastructure in India. Then the revenue receipts of central government during April to November 2021 have also gone up by 67.2%. The survey highlighted that local languages are being promoted through national education policy. Among major emerging market economies, Indian markets outperformed its peers in April to December 21. The tax collections have been buoyant for both direct and indirect taxes. The gross monthly GST collections have crossed 1 lakh crore rupees mark consistently since July 2021. Moving on. Despite all the disruptions caused by global pandemic, India's balance of payments remained in surplus throughout the last 2 years. Unified Payment Interface is currently the single largest retail payment system in the country in terms of volume of transaction, with 4.6 billion transactions worth rupees 8.26 lakh crore carried out in December 2021. There are certain challenges which were highlighted. Excess liquidity and a stalled insolvency process bring longer-term risks to the financial system. There is an inelastic supply of minerals, causing a lot of pressure in the energy sector of India. The wholesale price-based inflation during the current financial year, in contrast to the trends observed in the CPI inflation, has shown an increasing trend and remained high. Persistent inflation reinforces inflation expectations which are actually hard to reverse. A need to improve productivity of small and marginal farmers through development and implementation of smallholding farm technologies were felt. Pandemic job uncertainty continues to make people wary of EMIs because the middle class borrowing to own houses is well below the 21.1% growth year-on-year in home loans. It is also below the level of last 4 years. Moving on to the conclusion. Now, taking on the criticism that Atmanirbhar Bharat approach marks a return to old-school protectionism, the survey stated that the focus on economic resilience is a pragmatic recognition of the vagaries of international supply chain that have been exacerbated by actually the pandemic and trade wars as well. All macro indicators indicated that the economy was well placed to face challenges, helped by pickups in farm and industrial output growth. Now let's look at the question, what is economic survey? Discussing its salient features, analyze the implications of it being presented before the budget in 250 words. So that's it for today. Tomorrow we shall meet again with another segment. Until then, stay updated and thank you so much for watching.